it over to Mr. Ritchie. All right. So, good morning, Corona Daze Professional Development Group. I am Jeanette Edwards, the founder of Corona Daze Professional Development Group. And this afternoon, I am excited to be here with you. We are hosting today Mr. Charles Ritchie, and he's going to talk to us about hosting your business to success. I'm going to give you a little information about the session and Mr. Ritchie, and then I'm going to turn it over to him. So, Mr. Ritchie is going to talk to us today about, of course, hosting your business to success. He's going to discuss what is web hosting, establishing your .com, and what you need to get started. Charles is a senior IT professional with more than 35 years of experience configuring and administering IP and wireless-based networks while supporting technologies and users with desktop support. He is a certified Agile Scrum Master with a focus on project and network management, hardware and software applications, operating systems, and virtual cloud technologies. He currently owns and operates a web hosting platform and designs WordPress websites and hopes to answer as many questions as we all have about website hosting, website design, and website maintenance. So today, Mr. Ritchie has requested that we hold our questions to the end, and we're going to do that, guys. We're going to have a dedicated Q&A. Again, thank you for being here with us this afternoon, this Saturday afternoon. Mr. Ritchie, I'm going to turn it over to you. Please add anything that I may have missed out on your bio, and we can begin. I'm going to turn my video off and mute myself, but I'm here if you need me. All right?
Okay, great. Great. Thank you. As everyone can hear me very well, I'm hoping. Again, my name is Charles Ritchie, and I'm very pleased to meet with everyone today. I would like to thank you all for being here, as I know that it is Saturday and many of you don't have to be here. So it's my hopes that I can provide enough knowledge to you all so that you can pursue your personal endeavors. I also want to thank Ms. Danette Edwards for inviting me to speak with you today. It is my hope that at the end of our discussion that you will be a well-informed entrepreneur or business person who can maneuver the process and pitfalls when attempting to set up and establish your own .com address. This effort is being brought to you as a part of Corona Daze Professional Development Group. Personally, my own experience of adjustment and change this year has been to take the next steps forward in my own entrepreneurship. And while also being experienced with various technologies, I make no claims to being an expert, but just a seasoned subject matter expert on how to bring your vision of owning your own website to completion. I also make no assumptions that some of you may be quite familiar with the information that I'm about to provide, but I am with you because I want to share my overall knowledge about, number one, what is web hosting? Number two, why I believe it is important for entrepreneurs to establish a .com address and internet presence. And number three, what do you need to get started with your own website? As for myself, I've gone through this process more times than I can count, and I have learned many things throughout each and every project. So let's get started. Now, in order for me to discuss web hosting, I would first like to touch briefly on what I believe is the reasoning for establishing a .com address. I will come back to the web hosting momentarily. In our society today, and more directly within this year of change, many people have decided to launch and create their own businesses. And for whatever reasons, for whatever personal reasons, I have noticed that people creating a way for themselves to venture into entrepreneurship. Now, prior to the pandemic, all of the services and requirements needed for establishing their own businesses have led many to focus solely on the best digital marketing plan or schemes in order to market and sell their products or services. Maybe a few years ago, as social media has become so dominant in all of our lives, individual platforms like Facebook and Instagram had already begun to bridge themselves into a solution that would allow a person to create an online business or businesses with those familiar spaces. And today it has become even more dominated by entrepreneurs who use these platforms for marketing and mass exposure towards users and consumers to gain interest in their products and services. So with the increase of online businesses, you will see posts and messages where people want you to like, follow, and share their adjacent pages. And to some, this may seem annoying. And I believe that this is all useful depending on the depth and effort that the person must put into reaching the masses. And many have gone as far as to establish themselves as social media marketers. I do not question people's motivation or processes. Many businesses have been and can have success with social media alone. But it is my personal opinion that in order to catch the big fish, so to speak, you must present yourself with all professional attributes included, to which would be establishing a .com presence as well. The idea that you might have a business or service where you want to gain the opportunities with national and even globally recognized businesses, or maybe you want to gain government and state contracts. Some require that you own your own .com website. Some larger businesses want to know that you are more established, and where some companies won't even allow users to use Facebook or Instagram, their thinking could be, why would you want to send them to your Facebook or IG page? But in my mind, perception is reality, and it always is in the eyes of the beholder. So, how do you see your business being perceived when they are seeking to do business with a reputable company and they only have social media pages? This obviously is at the discretion of a business owner, and I consider this to be a strategic decision that will allow you to present your company to help expand your sales and market to a larger audience, as well as larger groups and consumers who recognize you as being well rounded and shaped differently ahead of your other competition. When you establish your own .com address, a home or splash page and any other details that you want to show can be under your own website and pages and may be considered over a company that only focuses on social media content. Again, I'm not taking away from the idea that social media should not be used, or at least that's not what I'm trying to say, but it should be looked at and viewed as an extension or an important inclusion to your organization. Your .com address can contain all of your static information, while your social media can continue to roll around in the background. Establishing your own .com address will give you your personal and in some cases customized environment with a presence that will allow you to do everything that you want to do under your business website and your business name. You can do just about everything and even more with your own .com address. You can play videos. You can have pictures. You can have pictures with what's called sliders. You can have a contact page. You can have an about us page. And I am speaking full pages of information as compared to a long and lengthy post that someone may or may not read because they were interrupted by your friend's post of their new car or their pets, or the best one for me is my granddaughter catching her first big fish. Your .com address can be very useful as your social media content and can continuously be copied and pasted into your daily and weekly social media content. At this time, I'd like to take a couple of questions if anyone has any.
So, guys, if you have any questions, please drop them into the chat, either on Facebook or here in the Zoom room. I don't see any questions yet, Charles. So
Okay.
we can go ahead
Keep
and
going.
as they come, I'll let you know.
Yeah, we can still do an answer session at the end.
Okay, perfect.
So now let's get back to what is web hosting. Web hosting is a requirement for setting up your own .com address. And yes, this is an annual fee, but it is one of the minimal fees required for establishing and maintaining your .com. As a business person interested in a website, you will need to take a couple of items. You need to acquire a couple of items in this process. But yes, web hosting fee is mandatory. And a web host is exactly what it sounds like. It is a place where your website can stay for a period of time. So when you think of a person or a family, when they choose to host someone from another country, they need somewhere to stay. You provide them with a room and a bed. And in technology, you are providing clients with a server of some type that will host your website design application and all of its associated files that are created by the content that you provide to your website. With that being said, there are many details and factors to look at. And if you're really interested in the details, like server type, CPU type, operating system, storage size, type of storage, which has changed over the years, and I don't want to leave out the actual software application, all of these are details about web hosting and there are plenty of other differences as well. But again, these details are necessary, but I can only explain them to clients who need someone who wants to look deeper into the web hosting platform that they are using. And to speak again briefly about these details, I will tell you that a server is more like a high-end computer. In order for your server to run, you need an operating system. It operates and is configured differently than your average desktop computer, but it still processes applications designed to communicate out to the world, so to speak. Your server has a CPU. Hopefully, I haven't lost anyone yet, but just so you know, this is the business of web hosting, and you must be very technical to explain it all. That is my role and is what I do with my website clients. So for a person seeking a website, web hosting is required along with a few other requirements. And in order for someone to start their pursuit of establishing their own .com address, a person must first purchase what's called a domain name. And a domain name is your www.yoursitename.com. This can be acquired by a couple of domain providers, but I will use GoDaddy as an example. So when you go to GoDaddy and you purchase your domain name, there are a couple of items that are needed in order to complete the first half of this process. Number one, you'll purchase your domain name. This is a mandatory requirement and is also an annual fee, which by most domain name sellers may increase after year one. Not by much, but they offer you an option of purchasing your name for up to 5 years. You would have to check with each domain name provider for the individual pricing, but again, it is another annual fee. This is a simple process for the most part, and you will need to understand how pricing domain names actually work. So let's say your business name is called Fix Computers for Less. When you go to GoDaddy, which is a prime domain name seller, on their homepage, they'll tell you to enter your business name to find a new domain name. So if you enter the name Fix Computers for Less and it comes up and says $1,400 a year, now that is not what you expected and maybe definitely not what you can afford. But yes, it is true that your domain name is priced based on the significance of the name by itself. The idea that the consumer looking for a brand or service will Google Fix Computers for Less is why it can automatically be priced higher as it is based on a significant name. But if you change that name to Fix Computers for Less using the number 4, it does not see it as a significant name as much, and changing the 3-letter word of 4 to the number 4 would change the price dramatically. Most websites usually average at around maybe $11 to $12 for the first year, and then they raise it up to maybe around $15 to $18, maybe a little more for the years after that. Of course, if you purchase them up front for the multiple years. They'll give you a much more discounted price based on the number of years that you purchase from them. But then to move forward with that, once you purchase your domain name, the second item that you need, and it is not mandatory from GoDaddy, for example, they have two separate flavors of what's called domain privacy protection. Now, when you go to GoDaddy and you select your name, it'll pop up and say, do you want domain privacy protection? And domain privacy protection, as defined by GoDaddy, is that for $9.99, they will hold on to your domain name at the end of the year, which means that if your credit card's not up to date, or if you didn't remember to renew that domain name, that it just won't go away. And that's the protection that they provide. They have another protection that costs $14.99 and covers a few more things, but personally, I only recommend your domain name to be at the $9.99 rate, because if you're a business owner, you definitely want to stay on top of your business. And when those annual renewals come up, you're already ready to make another payment. So that's just something to keep in mind. And the last requirement for establishing your .com is your web hosting plan. Most people are unaware of this if you're using GoDaddy or Wix or other sites, because of this fee will be included or hidden within your offer of services, like we will build your website for free. They are fully aware that the average client will try to gain them as clients on the basis of saving them money. But when the annual fees roll around, some company will put those prices out there at the marketable rates. But when you consider that after a year of operation, the average business owner who wants to keep their site up will consider these costs. They use them to save money, and they will ultimately make their profit margin off of support and services that are essential for going forward. Maybe in a support package or in a web maintenance fee. Nonetheless, their options to the average business owner is, we will take care of your website for you. I wish I could tell you more about that, but without cutting into the depths of the proprietary aspects of my current business, I can at least say this much. You do not, I repeat, do not have to have the same company that provides you with the domain name to be your web host. Some of you may be familiar with GoDaddy, Bluehost, HostGator, and many others like Intuitive Computer Services. They will also charge you either monthly or annually, and in most cases with web hosting companies, they do increase after 1 year. I ask you to do your research and find out how you can save costs in this area. Once you have acquired those three required items, you will then reach out to either a website designer or a developer to assist you with building your website. And if you notice, I did say designer or developer together because they are two different aspects that lead into our last topic. You can have someone design websites, or you can have someone who is a web developer. Both of these have the capability of managing your website, so that's not a problem. Or you could learn how to manage your website on your own. I suggest and offer the opportunity for people to learn how to manage their own websites, because developers and designers make their profits by charging you for setting up your website and also managing and adding to your website. But you can also have one who will just manage your websites as well. And to some extent, you can learn how to do all of this on your own, depending on your level of interest and involvement. On the high end, you have a developer. A developer is someone who actually writes the code to design the application and your website modules. It's not really necessary for the interiors of the code, but you don't need all of those things in order to bring your website to where you want it to be. Most website applications are already developed enough for you to function and operate your side of the web designing application. And for an example would be WordPress, which is my design and product of choice. and there's others out there like Joomla. Both can allow you to create your website through a GUI and a program to help you create and manipulate your overall design. For a developer, they go into the back end of the files and create the tools for the application to use so that the designer can put all of that together from the inside of the application. I again don't want to go too far into the proprietary nature of how web hosting platforms are set up or web designing and developing because it's pretty deep technical stuff. But the most important details that you may want to consider when you're pursuing this is storage space. And something that I would also add is what they call processing speed. Processing speed is how fast your web page actually comes up when you click on the link. In storage space, based on how much content you truly put into your website, it just eats away and eats away at storage. And the more times that your drives have to spin is just as much as the ability for the speed to be increased or decreased. So like when you're using pictures and things like that, you definitely want to use pictures that are quality worth, but not large in size, because those pictures eat up your storage space. So moving forward, I want to talk about seeking a designer, because when you seek a designer, you leave a lot up to them for the overall appearance and function of your website, like color schemes, content, and pretty much what you put into it is what you will see when people go to your page. I can tell you that I've been hosting and designing and managing websites for my families and friends since 2015. And in many ways, I have been able to save them money for what I believe to be overpriced services that some major players do that you find over the internet. But to get deeper into website design and maintenance, I'll cover three important items that you should be prepared for as you enter the full phase of this venture. You will need to, once you have your .com address and you have your privacy protection and you have your web host, so you get your application installed and you have, might be you or a web designer or a web developer, whatever you choose, the person that's going to actually put your website together. And one of the first items that's most important for a website is what's called an SSL certificate. This sometimes carries an annual fee, but it should never really change. But your SSL certificate is an optional item if you want your website to be viewed as a secure site when someone attempts to go to your page. Some of you may have attempted to go to a website and it pops up with what seems like an error, but it will give you an advanced option to proceed as long as you know that the site is unsecure. An SSL certificate certifies your site by using authentication keys so that your internet knows you are and knows who you are and that you are accessible securely. If you would like to take a quick look at this, I will give you a website to look at. You can go to www.fixcomputersforless.com and you should get, if you have never been to that site before, you should get that pop-up where it has, you'll see advanced, and then you click on advanced and it'll say you're going into a site that's unsecure. Now, what you'll notice when you go to an unsecure site, once you get into it, is that you'll have a triangle with an exclamation point on the left-hand side of the address bar. And with that, it's just letting you know that, you've already accepted it and got into the site, but it is an unsecure site. So hackers have more chance of actually getting in, screwing up your website and causing you a lot more of problems down the road. So now, if you wanted to take a look at another site, you could go to www.intuitivecomputerservices.com. And that page should come up automatically because that page has an SSL certificate. And if you look at the address bar, you'll basically see that should be a lock on the left-hand side of the name of the website. Feel free to check it out when you have a time and opportunity, but this is just what I wanted to at least let you all know. Another important item that you may want to know about is
Charles,
yes.
I'll share my screen and I'll show both of those examples.
That sounds fine.
All right, so let me share it because I pulled both of those up. All right, so I'm sharing right now. And that should be the Intuitive Computer Services. Can you see that one?
Yes, and you can see next to the name, you see the lock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the lock up here.
Yes. And that site, it has an SSL certificate, which means that anyone who comes, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Charles.
I was going to say that it means that anyone who comes to the site knows that the internet is aware of the site and it's already been certified. And the certification is strictly based on the fact that authentication keys have been created, which, you know, like I said, it goes a little deep when you start talking about all the technical stuff. But if you can go to Fix Computers for Less, I don't know if you've gone there or consulted.
Here we go. So that's that
right there. There it is, right? Now, it's a little bit different, but you know, you can see that the circle with the exclamation point, that site does not have a secure certificate on it. As a matter of fact, put www in front of that. And it's Fix Computers for Less. I'm sorry. No. Go back. Computers.
Just Fix Computers for Less. Sorry.
.com. And you see it says not secure.
All right, I see.
It says not secure. So you can actually see the web pages. I think from phones, maybe it'll show you the page where it'll tell you it's unsecure. It could be your computer, but either way, it tells you that it's not secure.
Not secure. Okay. And guys, this is Intuitive Computer Services. This is Charles's website, and if you've logged in and registered through Zoom, you'll get Charles's contact information. If you're on Facebook, you know, I will repost all of his information so you can connect with him for more information, find out about his services. All right.
And if I could just add to that, you know, my business, as much as my strategic design, go to the contact us page and submit your information. There's no real phone number there because I like to deal with people personally over the phone, or at least I don't mind chatting. I don't mind texting, but I just don't like putting a phone number out there.
No problem. All right, guys. So you see the form here to complete if you'd like to contact Charles for more information. All right. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Right. So we just have a little bit more to go here, but the next item that is very important for a website is what's called SEO, and that anagram stands for search engine optimization. This may, with some companies, require an annual fee, but most companies should only charge you once for their efforts, as it will never have to be repeated, but only maintained, and that would be at the growth and inclusion of more products or locations, things like that. This is where all of your internet search engines like Google, Yahoo, and Bing are set up and configured for searchability, which can increase your ranking within those search engines. Where you might want your business to be on top of the list, this is what you should inquire about. Now, every search engine optimization is done individually based on the person who designs the websites. But you can actually build, if you're in a certain location, especially with SEO, if you put your location into your configurations, and let's say you're looking for horses in Maryland or Perry Hall, Maryland. Well, anyone who's searching in Perry Hall for horses would find your site because that's what your product has been configured for search engine optimization. Okay, So the next item to be aware of is that e-commerce. E-commerce is a website where you should want to be able to receive secured payments from clients and customers that come to your website. In most cases, your website would need to be set up to send your purchasing clients like to PayPal or Western Union and such. All of the payment security is within their pages. This is how I manage the pages that I support. So that is not my responsibility and I allow that the clients use them because of their reputable uh, payment process. Another important item is your links to your social media accounts. While people can find you either while people can find you from either direction, your social media can account for your reviews and information, and you can continue to count your likes, your follows, your shares, and you can continue to maintain your .com address as your home base and a source of a refined repository of your products and services. And if you heard me mention earlier, you know, you have your .com address, you have all of your information, your about us, you have your logos, you have your pictures, and all you have to do is take it, copy and paste it, and put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram. But that information on your .com address never has to change, never has to go anywhere. You can continue to add content, but you can still just pass that information over to your daily, weekly marketing strategies for your business just by doing copy and paste. So now the last item that I'd like to tell you about is the overall idea of website management. With this, you will find that both website designers and possibly developers are going to charge you to make daily, weekly, and monthly updates and changes. For the business person with novice experience and no desire to take care of the tech stuff, do not use a developer. They primarily develop the programs. So when you ask them to manage their websites, they still think from a developer pricing standpoint. And when you start to look for web designers, they usually kind of manage and maintain their fees based off of how much of an effort that they think it's going to take, which they can tell you, oh, it's going to take 4 hours to get done. But is it really 4 hours? And what's the hourly rate? So when you look at some of the sites like Wix or 123 websites, they'll tell you the same thing. They'll sign you up for as little as they can, but then whenever you wanted to have something changed, modified, or moved around, that's where they're going to make their money from. Myself, I've actually begun to teach and train WordPress and support my clients in training by showing them how to make changes on their websites on their own. It's not really difficult, but at the end of the day, if you want me to take care of it, my pricing is different as well. If you wanted to add a page, there's a fee for a page. I choose to say that if there's enough content that you want to put on your page, I might stop you at some point and say, well, that's way too much to add to your page. It's going to look too long. It's not going to look professional or whatever. I only charge by pieces and parts is basically what I say. It'll help you save money in the long run. And as well, if you wanted to do daily changes, weekly changes, or monthly changes, that can be handled just as well for a reasonable price. Not everybody needs a change every day or every month or even every week. So that was how I kind of thought out my strategy with that. But the option that this also allows a business owner to learn and become a website manager. Like if you had a website with me and we sat down and I trained you as much as I possibly could, you can go to your friend next door and say, hey, I could get you a website for however much, and I can actually manage it for you. And then once I get it all set up and have you logging in as an administrator, you can pretty much deal with that client right from there as your own opportunity, another source of income. So it's just something to consider, something that I wanted to let everybody know. But there is so much more for everyone to be aware of. But in keeping in the context of this virtual learning, I believe that I've given you enough details, and I hope that I have covered enough information so that you can make the best informed decisions that will suit your own growing business. I want to wish you all the best as you navigate through this process, and I hope that you are all successful in all of your endeavors. Thank you, and God bless.
All right. Thank you, Charles. I have some questions.
Sure.
I'll start my video.
Okay.
And I just want to say thank you. This was good information. We have, you're in our Facebook group, so there's some comments. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, sorry.
And
I have my mic.
I'm looking
All
at the
right.
chat window.
So I'll read these questions,
Okay.
and I'll just let you know that in the Facebook, in the chat, I'll tag you in the chat for Facebook. I
Okay.
didn't copy the comments, so there's
Yes.
some good comments in there for you about this presentation. Okay. Some
Okay.
really good positive notes that people dropped. So
Great.
I'll go to the first question. And the first is, how do I drive traffic to my website?
So the effort of driving traffic to your website, again, having a .com address pretty much sets you up to be a little bit more professional.
Mhm.
Social media is fine for driving traffic because everybody's on Facebook, everybody's on Instagram. You could repeatedly send your links out as everybody does, and to some extent always include your website in there, because just as when your website's included in most of the posts, it'll pull up your kind of like your header page, or at least your logo, something that'll come up and show you what it is. But search engine optimization is where you need to put your money into, because search engine optimization is where you're actually configuring, in WordPress, you can configure the application side so the application sends out more information to the web search engines. But just you want to register within those web search engines, put your product there. So when somebody goes to Google and finds your name, Google already has you on file, right? And then as much as the configurations in the background, like I said, as much as you might have the location or certain other details that they ask you for keywords. And those keywords are like when somebody goes and does a search, it looks and see how many of those words that they can match in their request. And if they know that this page has 5 references of this word, that word, and the other word, and I don't want to say that, if it finds the 5 words out of the 10 words that's in the list, that brings it closer to the top of the listing.
I see. All right. And what is the least expensive way to get web hosting?
I would say with my company, but
of course,
it's a mandatory fee. You can't have a website without having web hosting. And if you do your research, and I think I do have some information on my page,
okay.
It talks about the costs for what GoDaddy might do.
Right.
They'll start you off at, we'll say $5.99 per month, and then they'll give you an annual rate. And with that, come the end of the year, they automatically increase it.
Oh.
I don't increase my price, not within the first year. Now, as much as I'm a new business, I am considering that after maybe the second or third year.
Yeah.
My whole idea is to support, talk about Corona days. I want everybody to do well. I want everybody to be able to get started. But when you start looking at hosting fees, you're talking about the fact that they're going to charge you for certain things that you're not even aware of. This is for back end server management type stuff like daily, monthly, weekly backups. Let me take one step back. GoDaddy, they'll try to give you a free web building application for about a month. And the next month they go back to charging you for how many WordPress applications you want. I give out the WordPress application to my clients, and I prepare their sites. I allow them admin privileges over their site. I also prepare a contract to say that this site is your property. Everything that you give me is under your domain, so to speak. I'm never going to take anything away from you, and if you want it back, I will gladly give it back to you. I mean, hope that my hosting service by itself will, work properly and give you the comfort that whenever you go to your site, people can get there, and that I also offer free monthly backups. Let's talk about GoDaddy. GoDaddy backs up their systems every night, but you call them because your web designer or your developer screwed up your web page. You get what's called a 404 error because it won't load.
I've seen that.
Basically, it's the idea that, well, who can I call? Well, because GoDaddy does the hosting and they manage the server, you give them a call. So I called them once, and this was probably 3 years ago, and they're like, well, if we want to do a return a backup, it's going to be about $150. Like, well, is that the only way to get it recovered? And me being a host, they said, well, you can do the backups on your own. I said, well, just do the backups on my own. So I provide a free monthly backup. If you want a weekly, I'll find a rate for you. If you want a daily backup, I'll find a rate for you. It's very important, especially if you want to try to practice and become your own little web designer and go out and create people's websites. I'm here to support that effort. I want people to grow. I want people to be able to make, have an alternate stream of income. At the end of the day, if I went into a lot of depth of my hosting business, I'd like to consider myself as a servant of type, and I do give a portion of what I make away to charity, because I want to see, in our country we have something called the digital divide, and that digital divide is something that can be conquered as long as we have money given to that area, so to speak. So that's just a part of my focus.
I like that flexibility, Charles. I do. I like that. Excuse me, guys. If you've been on with me before, my dog is playing with her squeak toy. So we might be picking that up right now.
That's all right.
I'm going to mute myself after I give you this next question. What price range would you suggest someone stay within for a startup company, or does that depend on the type of business? And I'm assuming this is for web hosting services.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Everybody has to have a web host, right? So I could pretty much charge what I want to host your website and just manage the server from there, right? Now, when you start looking at how other companies operate with just the hosting side of it, like I said, they start off with one price, and after the first year they go up. But and then they don't really have the ability to do backups. But even like with GoDaddy, they'll say, well, we can get you hooked up with an email, and then they want you to buy the Microsoft Office 365 product, and I don't even know what those prices are, to be honest with you. What I do with my websites, and this is with every website that I set up, let's say if I say www.dedwards.com, I'll give you one free forwarding email address that would say info@dedwards.com. So anybody who sends you an email, we would set it up between us where that email would come to the email box, and I would forward it to your chosen email address. So everybody monitors their emails and their phones, so everything processed in the background is really just that one email address forwarding it to the email that you desire. And I think it's a much better served process because to some extent, every server has to hold and maintain those emails, and they fill up and take up your space, which also affects how your site operates. But no one's really going to put that out there to tell you that. I mean, it's just a known process. And what was the other question? You said,
let me see. So
business price range is about startups. Okay. Danette, please forgive me if I take it upon myself to take this up.
Okay.
But so right now I offer 3-page websites for $50. Now those 3-page websites, you can actually put 5 pictures on each page. And to some extent, we can add a couple of what they call widgets and things that you can add, like a picture slider, right? I'm not going to give you a bunch up front, but as much as just establishing your .com presence for $50, I don't think you can really beat that. Web hosting, which I normally charge $3 per month. And I've had, if the prices are different on my website, I think it's $2.90 on my website. But either way, let's take $2.90. From the $2.90 amount per month, I'll charge you $25 for the entire year. So that annual fee is only $25. But when you charge $5.69 for 12 months, you're looking at what, over $50, right? So that's a savings right there off the top. But to go on to the next cost, I have what's called a basic website page. Now that basic website page is 5 pages. And again, I think I have 10 pictures per page. You have to keep in mind that as many pictures that you put on that page, it uses up your storage space. It affects your processing ability from the pages actually coming up with their speed, right? But I would give, as many different add-ons and widgets that would go along to make them, make their site perform that they want. Again, me being the manager, so to speak, in the setup and design process, I'm going to let you know if we're doing too much or too little, because I can tell you what it's going to look like from a professional standpoint. But at the end of the day, I am doing my best to save you money. So for that, I think as advertised on my website is $200. That would be a 2-week process. And as much as, I would have 3 meetings with you. There is a non-refundable portion of 50% going into it. But at the end of the day, when I bring the product to you, as we discussed, if you don't want it, you don't have to pay for the rest of it. You can just take your information and go about your business. Go find someone else. But to some extent, the last one would be the e-commerce page, which is way more involved because then you're looking at a lot of pictures, a lot of content, and you're also looking about the ability for someone to actually make a payment from your page. Now, for someone to make a secure payment from your page, you have to set up an agreement with those paying companies like PayPal. There has to be an agreement that you can go from that page to their page and they make their payments over there, and then your funds get sent to your account. That right now is at $400 a page or $400 a website. But you also get a free SSL certificate with that site. So the other pages where I was talking about the $50, right now I'm charging $50 also for a SSL certificate. And that by itself, every amount that I've given you is negotiable with me. Again, I want to help people, but I want people just as well know that, I do know what I'm doing, but, I do have a full-time job and I do have other things in life that I have to keep up.
Yeah.
I can promise you that your website, you're going to get the free email address and then you're going to get a monthly backup. And if I sat here long and hard enough, I could probably tell you about a couple other few things that are free that go along with it. But, again, this was about web hosting. So.
Well, you know what, Charles? I'm going to get to the next questions, but this is what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
So I dropped my website for Corona Daze in the chat, but you have it. I'm going to ask you, and then maybe we can figure out how to do this so everyone can see it, or review our website and let me know what you would charge for CDPD, like for your
Sure.
services. First of all, and I think we have a question about it
Okay.
here below. I think this is what Rena is asking. Do
Mhm.
you do resite hosting? Is that something that is advantageous to you? And I think that's what I'm saying, right? If
Yeah.
you take
If I would,
over CDPD,
yes.
like
So I
what would you then
recently,
charge? Mhm.
right now, I recently tr- transferred a gentleman's website to my hosting, and it was with a company called Bluehost. There is a process of certification that has to go back between Bluehost and GoDaddy because, I say between Bluehost and myself, right? And it took a week. It was the first time that I dealt with them. Now, it could be done in less than a week, I'm sure, with other people. Like if you're a GoDaddy person, it should take a day, maybe 24 hours for me to get you under my hosting plan. The difference though would be, just the effort of work. There is a $10 fee that has to be paid for the transfer. There is also a transfer fee that may come from the company that you're removing it from. But I haven't gotten into all of the other companies. I just know that if you come over to me, I do have a fee for receiving that transfer, and it's only $10. But
Yeah, so I think like if you look at our site, this dog, sorry,
it's
take a
okay.
look at our site and maybe we can put something together, whether it's some pictures or something like, okay, so this site, because what we pretty much have is what we're pretty much going to have. The only addition, I'm sorry guys, that's my dog with her squeaks away. The only
Mhm,
addition that we're gonna add pretty much to the site is the ability to take payments,
mhm,
and then we're going to add video testimonials. So right now we have written testimonial. We're going to add a couple. I want to add 5 uh, video, quick
mhm,
videos, a minute or
mhm.
less, testimonials from some members. Let me mute myself. I'm going to ask you this next question and mute myself because this dog is going crazy.
Okay.
So this one was just the okay, I love it. The slight difference in the name will affect pricing. This is good to know.
Mhm.
And then Jay said, boo to overpriced designers. I had to drop that in there. I thought
I
that was
saw
cute.
that. I saw that.
And I think you kind of talked about this a little, but if you want to add some more, how can I increase SEO?
Mhm,
How do I ensure people are finding my website? Do I pay extra for this?
mhm. So yes, there is a fee associated with SEO. I have to tell you that most of what you would want to add on is going to have a fee. Um, how people choose to price it is left up to them. Um, you know, I think I say as much as my experience. When I decided to become a web host platform, um, I did it because I know more about the back end than I do for everything on the front end. But through a period of time, I've pretty much learned everything that I need to know about web design. Um, in my contract, I do state to the client that if there's something that I can't do, I can find someone to do it for you, but I can't control those costs. So to say me to do SEO, I have my prices, as a set amount. But if you don't feel as though you're getting the right SEO support from me, I can contact an SEO specialist and we can work from there. Um, but you can just as well contact someone about your SEO. Again, I give administrative privileges for all of my sites to the clients that are paying clients as web hosts. If they choose to have somebody hack their sites, or not hack, but manage their sites, and they mess it up, and you need to come back to me for a backup or a restoral, your we will give you a one restore from for the month, and then we can go from there. Um, but again, you know, I also offer like 1 hour of training at the amount of $50 an hour, and that would be enough for you as a user to manage your own website. You know, I usually set the backup for the day that I actually uh, launch the page. So every 30 days, you would have a monthly backup. So if you go through 20 days of changes and all of a sudden you dump your website, you can return back, but you just have to know that you're returning back to that particular day. So that's my strategy.
Okay. And I don't know if you want to say anything more on the question about I think the second piece is the do you do recite rehosting? So I think you answered that, but is that something that is advantageous to do? Do you want to add anything on that?
I mean, I think the advantage by itself is the fact that you're going to save some money in the long run. Um, when I rehost a site, I have to make some considerations. Currently I only support a certain number of servers, and those servers have certain CPUs. They only process things as fast as they can. Now, the bigger my company grows is the bigger that I'll actually create more and more servers with higher processing speeds. I want to have one server for every e-commerce site at some point, right? Because it could be more intensive, but that's where my management side comes into it, right? Like if you start off with an e-commerce site today, you're not going to have a bunch of stuff on it, right? So I'll put it on one of my normal processing servers. But if you want to rehost a page that actually has like huge back end storage, then yeah, we need to consider growth there. So when people come to your website, they're not fighting the tunnel to get your information to pop up on their screen. So again, that's my proprietary technical knowledge that, I know what I'm doing. I just need people to understand that I'm going to take care of them. And um, to say that I'm reachable 24 hours, 7 days a week, the idea that I can only do certain work during certain times, backups is where I draw a line. Um, if you reach out to me and say I need a backup, well, I need at least 12 to 24 hours to get you back up to where you need to be. But if you call me in the middle of the night because you were changing your website, I have to apologize, but I'm not going to do it until the morning. And that's when your 12 to 24-hour period will start. So again, I mean, I would do everything to make sure that you get back up and running. But, um, if you're, once I give you administrative privileges and I give you ownership over your property, you have to protect your property. So you have to be that business owner.
Okay.
At your website, um, it's something, people talk about it nowadays too, about can you do a site revamp, right? I mean, I can do a site revamp to some extent. My process is that we sit through 3 meetings. The first would be an initial meeting to talk about your ideas and basically put it into what you think is going to be what you want. I'll go back and I'll work on it. But when I bring it to the table the next time, I will require a 50% deposit, and that is not refundable because I've already done all of the work to produce what it is that you want. Now, through that process from the very beginning, I'll send you a proposal letter. And then when I come back to the table, I'll have an invoice letter for that deposit. Now, talking about time frames, again, a 3-page website shouldn't take longer than 24 hours. I yeah. But if I go past it, please forgive me. But to say basic web page would be 2 weeks, uh, 2 to 3 weeks. A e-commerce site, I would do 2 to 4 weeks. Okay. Now, if I can tell you something about e-commerce too, because I do have a new client. He wants me to add something in that I told him I don't know if I can do it. And right now we're basically working out the process of putting it into what it is that he wants. It requires me to go out and look for what's called these different modules that WordPress uses that will perform the functionality that he wants. And what he wanted is he wants a site that where he can actually put a t-shirt up there and people can choose the designs and create their own picture in the website so they can see what they're buying and then they can just go and pay for it and he'll just fulfill the shipment. Well, that's a much longer process of trying to create that environment for him. So when I say e-commerce and somebody comes up with that type of idea, I usually give them 30 days just off the top. But if you just wanted an e-commerce because you have all your pictures, you have all your content, and we just need to figure out the color schemes and all of those things like that, I do it between 2 to 3 weeks, just as well as the just the same as the basic web page. But if I could just add this out to the group, I think it's a very good piece of information. Is that I can only go as fast as you provide me content.
Yeah.
It takes you 2 or 3 days to get back to me. You've taken 2 or 3 days off of that time schedule.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proficient to keep track of it because if I need to get your job done because I wrote in the contract that we'll have it done this day, yeah, I mean it's a two-way street. So that's just important for you to know.
Thank you. So I have a comment here from Mr. Roundtree, and
Mm-hmm.
he says this is an excellent presentation, and I think it is as well.
Thank you,
Uh,
thank you, Mr. Roundtree. I appreciate it.
So I thank you for coming here with us today, Charles. So if this is your first time in a CDPD presentation, this is the time for me to ask my questions. However, if there's anything that you'd like to ask, Charles, please drop it in the chat and I will ask it in between my questions. I have 3 questions here. And then I dropped Charles's website in the chat here in the Zoom room and on Facebook. And I also dropped our website, our Facebook group, and our YouTube channel. So if you're new to a CDPD presentation, we have about 34 other presentations that we've done. They're all on our YouTube channel, all types of topics. You can check them out. You can also join our group and be able to interact directly with people like Charles, because all of our pros who present in our webinars are also in our group and they're available for you to tap for information. All right. And Charles, you and I have to talk because I think it would be very helpful for our members and people who are in this Zoom if you just look at our website and just give me like this is the proposal that I would do if I took this over, right? If I took this over and we added the oh gosh, you just said it, the commerce page, and you had a different type of testimonial page with live video. So I think that would be really helpful for people to say, okay, so this is what would happen if I did rehosting, or this is kind of what Charles would be charging me. So, and there's no rush on that,
Right. And if I could just add to that, and I know it's only for the group, it's just the idea that, wherever we start at is where we're building just a foundation. Once you get that privilege and we go to launch, that's your house, right? So from there, we can add on, build and make things, but it is going to cost something. It's everything. Right. Everything's not for free. But
this is the only place where we get free stuff as CDPD guys, because I'm crazy. But everybody else got to eat. I'm the only one eating air.
Okay.
And no, the same way that we want our members to establish, like either become better professionals, establish additional streams of income. We want that for our presenters as well. So we support our own in CDPD. So I always encourage everyone, if you are in the chat, whether you're a member or not, if you have a product or service that you'd like to introduce us to, if you'd like to host a presentation, if you just like to come and talk to us about your career journey, come on and do that, because we want to support everyone here. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead to my questions, all right? So I asked 3 questions of every presenter here, same 3 questions. And my first question, Mr. Ritchie, is, so Corona Daze Professional Development Group's mission is to increase marginalized and BIPOC groups' access to employment opportunities and representation in the workforce by providing our members with free training, mentorship, and other resources. CDPD was created in response to record unemployment and underemployment rates stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. And keeping in mind that our group, we service marginalized people. Anyone can be marginalized by anything. And we don't marginalize ourselves, or if we do, it's because we were already marginalized by some other person or group. So my question to you, Mr. Ritchie, is, would you be willing to share with us if you've ever been marginalized, and if so, how, in what way?
Wow. Well, I may look young, but if you look closely, I have free gray hairs, right? And of course, I mean, it's a part of our society to some extent. And if I was to talk about, I don't know, the most recent time, it's just happened many times. I'm a father, a husband. I have, 3 children and a granddaughter. Raising a family is, you got to do what you have to do, but you can't control your environment, right? One particular time I was on a job for 2 years, offered me the opportunity to travel to locations out around the world. But it was a company that their home office was in the UK and they were expanding to the Americas, is what they called it. And, I was the last guy there. And when they were acquired by a larger company from Germany, the Americas office wasn't as important and was released. But, I mean, I'm a man of faith and I had a job within 30 days closer to home. I mean, I think I've read something, betrayal is sometimes a blessing, right?
This is true. This is true. Just like one door opens, one door closes, another one opens.
And I always say sometimes you got to close that door yourself.
Yes, yes. And I asked this question because, again, we service people from marginalized groups and people who have been marginalized. And sometimes it's not obvious, why someone is marginalized. Like in your example here was you were in Americas. It wasn't important to them, right?
Yeah, right.
It could be race, it could be gender, it could be sexual preference and orientation. We had a gentleman say he was marginalized because he was short. I would have never thought it, right? We had a very handsome, and I always say he's a handsome guy, white male, and people say, oh, they're the epitome of privilege. They're never marginalized.
Right.
Say he was marginalized coming out of the military and trying to get into corporate America. That there was all these preconceived notions. We had a very beautiful white woman, blonde hair, blue eyes, say she was marginalized. They told her shut up in the workplace. So I asked the question because I want everyone to know who watches or attends a webinar that no matter what happens in your life, you may feel like you're marginalized because you have been unemployed or you are underemployed or you're just not happy. And you feel that you've been marginalized or you're unfulfilled in your work, that here we have Mr. Ritchie saying, yes, I've been, and he said he had many examples. He just gave us one recent one, right?
Well, that wasn't even recent.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the recent one I don't talk about anymore.
All right. Yeah. You see? So I asked the question, everyone, so that we know whatever it is, or why, whatever reason you may have been marginalized or you may be marginalized right now, know that in spite of that, you too can be successful. Here we have a successful business owner who he owns his own business and he still has his primary employment. And he's been gracious enough to share with us today, and knowing that he's faced marginalization in multiple situations. So know that in spite of marginalization, we still can and will have success. So thank you for sharing that.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
Based off your question specifically, obviously you being the manager or the admin over the group, I would be willing to offer at least 1 hour of free training to anyone who chooses to be their own website manager.
All right, guys. You hear that?
But I will give 1 hour free. I say that because to some extent, when I get on the phone and I start talking, couple out free hours anyway. So, but I want to do this for your group, so I will work with people who would work through you.
All right. And I see you already have Rena taking you up on that offer. Okay. Irina, I hope you are a group member. Please join us if you're not. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And my second question, Mr. Ritchie, is considering your, thank you, Rena. Yes, we welcome all here. And this is because, I'm always tooting our horn, but what we want people to know is, I don't care what you have going on today. You have something right now in your hand and your heart and your mind. Everyone on this webinar, whether you're watching live or replay, you have something right now that you can use to achieve greatness and success. You may not feel it, you might not know what that is, but you have it. And in this group, we help you to recognize that and then build on that. All right. So, all right. Mr. Ritchie, this is one of my favorite questions. Okay. If you could go back, I don't want to know how old you are, but I know you got a couple of years only because you said that grandbaby. I wouldn't know if you didn't say about that granddaughter. What's her name?
My granddaughter? Oh, that's my Shayla.
Shayla. Okay, how old is she? Oh, granddaddy don't know that age.
She's 10.
She's 10. Oh, wow. I thought you would have said 2 or something like that. I didn't think you would have a 10-year-old grandbaby. You look good, Mr. Ritchie.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And she's my heart. So
I know you've spoken about her quite a few times already. Yes. All right, guys. So, Mr. Ritchie, if you could go back to the younger you, either when you first started out, and you could just tap yourself on the shoulder and say something about your career journey, some lesson you learned, some aha moment, what advice would you give your younger self?
Well, I'd have to say, shoot for the stars. What does it say? No, shoot for the moon.
Shoot for the moon.
Don't make it, at least you'll be amongst the stars.
I love it. I love it. And I
Yeah.
said go to the chat, but I want to read you some of this stuff in this chat real quickly before I get to my last question. And guys, this is your last opportunity to drop any questions, because my last question is our final question. But so it says, Mr. Ritchie is over here looking like Cool Breeze. You look
Oh,
great.
Jesus. Thank you. Thank you. I try.
Uh-huh. Thank you for your
No,
expertise. And they're saying what 1 hour free. So I'm sure they're gonna run you down, Mr. Ritchie, when I post your contact information. All right. So
now, if I
I
can
don't
add to that too,
sure Ag go on.
again, me just being a startup is really only me. I
Mhm.
return every phone call. It may not be today. I have to schedule my days, and I just for
Mhm.
you know, and even the friends that you may bring, to my site, just give them the understanding that, I mean, I've been in IT for a long time, and even though it's the past 10 years been more about project management, product support, product management, I'm not going to lose sight of helping anybody. It just, I can't do it all by myself.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm leaning towards training people, because they can
Mhm.
be that person in their area who is the website designer.
Yeah.
I'll take care of their back ends. So just be patient with me is what I'm asking.
Yeah, and also, Mr. Ritchie, you could think about, if a couple of people contact you, maybe you do 1 hour with 5 people. I don't know, or maybe it's 3 hours with 10 people in a group setting on a Zoom, and that is a better use of your time. I don't know
Oh
the
yeah,
particulars. I'm
yeah,
technologically challenged, remember?
definitely, definitely. No, I have a plan for that.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to work on the digital divide.
Mm-hmm.
I reach out to every possible community that's available, and I'd like to visit and pitch the same idea to some degree.
Yeah.
This can be another income for you. You
Yeah.
apply yourself, and just as well you're promoting your own business in the
Mm-hmm.
but let me go back and say a
Mm-hmm.
.com is the most professional way for a business to operate.
Mm-hmm.
I've joined plenty of groups and everybody's complaining, oh, follow me this, follow me that, and why people keep doing that. People are just trying to make money.
Yeah.
Reality is that when you start looking at bigger corporations, no, they don't really care about Facebook or Instagram. They want you to have a .com, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. So most people know I started this group in April, and I was taught, I've been talking to all kind of people. I'm always bumping my gums about this, about what we're doing. And I spoke to a gentleman, and he said, well, one thing you need a website.
Yeah,
He told me straight up, this was
right up
in
the top.
early June.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you need a website.
Yeah.
If anyone's going to look at you seriously. And I still use I have the dot com email address. I still
Mm-hmm.
use my Gmail address only because I don't know how to get the email forwarded. Again, I'm
Exactly.
technologically challenged, but
Right.
that's something else that I need to work on. I need to start using that Danette at cdpd.com
Right.
email address,
Right.
just so that people can take me more seriously. But I know initially on the outset, he was like, look, I can't do much for you in terms of getting sponsors and getting people to take you seriously without your own
.com.
website. And now we have it. I mean, we had it like 2 weeks after he said that. I got on it.
Right.
So I agree with you, Mr. Ritchie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to check the chat real quick and see if we have anything on Facebook. And then I'm going to go to my last question. This was excellent. Okay, I don't have any more questions, so I'm gonna go to my last one. But this was excellent. I thank you, Mr. Ritchie, and you kept me engaged. And again, I'm the least tech person.
Yeah.
So keep me engaged about a tech topic is a big thing.
That's
It's
great.
huge.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. It's
All
important.
right.
If you're not learning, you're not growing. So
This is true. This is
no
true.
matter what you pursue, you just have to, you got to be open for it. So,
Yeah, thank you, Rena. All right, so here's my last question, and
hmm
that is, if we can only have one takeaway, you know, from today, what would that be? What would you want us to walk away with?
Um, so it's really kind of important to me. You know, when I saw your group, I was like, yeah, this Corona thing. I don't even know what, right? I mean, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And it's not just for us, it's for your kids and your, you know, take this opportunity to press that gas pedal. You know, that's honestly what I've been doing. If I told you this was my only business opportunity, I'd go out here every day right now, 10 times harder than I did before Corona got here. It's an unfortunate situation. None of us really know what the outcome is going to be, but I believe that you can be better. And that's what I plan on doing. And for the Corona Daze people, the group, yeah, go be better. Do what you got to do. You know, we don't know how long we're going to have. So if we have our lives, make something of it. That's what I'm trying to do.
I hear you. I hear you. I thank you and I appreciate you. You know,
Mhm.
you are welcome to come back. If you'd ever like to come back and do anything with us, we'd have you.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining today. If you are on the Zoom, you will receive Mr. Ritchie's information, and definitely visit us in our group. All right, then. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of your weekend. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. All right,
Thank you,
then.
Jeanette. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
That was great. Thank you.